thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I'm sure you're a busy man. So look, the first place we wanted to start was obviously Weird Science, one of my favourite films of all time. In fact, it was the first film that ever introduced me to you as an actor. I suppose a really good place to start would just to be learn about how that opportunity came about for Weird Science.
Well, I did not audition. I just actually had a phone call for work from my agent at the time, Lou Deucer, and so I'm trying to remember what I think it was. It was Universal. And so I went to Universal. I got a wardrobe check, and then I got the script. And a couple of days later, I got my call, and we showed up, and it was at a sound stage. I mean, the house actually, when the lady, for instance, who was playing the piano, and she wound up getting sucked up through the chimney, that whole entire house and that stunt was all done inside a giant stage. They built the whole house inside the giant stage. It was amazing. It was just absolutely incredible. So it was just pure fun. From every day I went to work. I mean, Robert Downey was, everybody was young. We were all young. It was just absolutely delightful. John Hughes, of course, he had that youthful sparkle, in his eyes. He just tapped into what it was like to, be young and naive and trying to, negotiate your way through trials and tribulations like all kids do.
Yeah, and it's such a unique film, right? I mean, obviously John Hughes was brilliant, as you say, of capturing that kind of teenage angst, and also there's a lot of sort of teenage sexuality in that film as well. Now, like, when you read the synopsis of that film, it's really, really bizarre when you read it about two teenagers basically making a woman in their basement. When you first read the script, what were you thinking the film was going to be like?
Oh, well, basically just exactly what he had envisioned, awkward. Well, having... When I got my contract and I got my call, I did not know that Bill Paxton was on board, or Robert and Michael, and I had no idea what the other players would be like to be around, how the chemistry permeated the set. I started to get comments from the crew members, the gaffers, and various crew members that had been working for weeks prior to my arrival, and they all had wonderful things to say. I mean, because they were impressed with Michael Anthony Hall's ability to ad-lib and make slight adjustments, in the moment that really, really worked. Kelly was just a joy to work with. Everybody. I mean, Vernon, I still see Vernon Wells to this day. Matter of fact, I was coming back from a convention, or it might have been a film festival, and I was connecting flights in Los Angeles, and on the flight, I was getting ready to take off the flight in Los Angeles, and Vernon winds up sitting right next to me.
Oh, really?
And I go, wow. So it's a small world, but it was probably the most lighthearted set I've ever been on, ever, actually.
Yeah, and your role was actually brilliant in it. You're very, very sort of comedic. It's one of the few comedic roles I remember you actually doing, because your character obviously just changes quite quickly from being really scary to quite subdued and very apologetic.
Exactly. It was what John wanted, actually. We had a little aside while we were setting up the camera for our exit, and and our come ups, when the boys pulling over on us, and he said, Michael, what do you think that this character is in day to day? Because they're all being brought magically into the house for the sequence for the boys to have a challenge and be heroic. And he says, so what if they are actually real people? And we had a quick discussion, and we said, well, what if, he's a school teacher, and the kids are brats all the time, every day in and day out. Teacher has to deal with this and put up with it, and this is a chance, not by their choice or design, it just happened to be a moment where it's so revealed, and there's the reverse, and we thought that was a good way to go, and subsequently the audiences loved that. I also had a brilliant idea. When I was in grammar school, I went to, one of my classmates was Richard Skelton, Red Skelton's son. And my family were friends with Red and his wife and family, and we would go over and visit, and I would go to Richard's room, and he had toys and lots of comic books, and we would read comic books. And sometimes, on many occasions, Red would come up to the room and hang out with us, sit on the floor and read comic books with us. And I remember asking him one time if he would do Gertrude and Heathcliff, the two seagulls from the show, and he did. And we just fell on the floor laughing. He was a wonderful, wonderful entertainer, extremely big-hearted, and a lot of humanity, and just a purity of spirit when it comes to comedy. There was nothing subversive about his joy, his laughter. It was pure. And so I wanted to do a little shout-out, because I remember when Red Skelton told me that at the end of his show, which was live television in the day, he said, I want to thank my viewing audience for allowing us to be part of your family's entertainment this evening. We'll see you next week. Good night for now, and God bless. And the producer said, you can't say God bless, it will offend someone. And Red Skelton told me, he said, really? He says, what does that sign up there say? He says, it says The Red Skelton Show. And I said, so I always admired him for his humanity. So it was my way to do a shout out as I'm moving the bike. And I knew enough about blocking and camera and editing at this point in my career that I knew if I was in a moving shot that it's very difficult to cut away and then cut back to remove that little piece of dialogue, even though I said it just under my breath enough to where it would be heard, but they could have slid, the recording to erase it, but no, he left it. And then when we were setting up for the next take, he came up to me and he said, hey, that was really nice.
Awesome.
So what people need to remember is that in film and television and what we do as actors professionally, we are a family, and that's one of the elements that I wanted to be conveyed.
It's very cool. It's very, very cool indeed, actually. One of the other films I wanted to talk to you about, Michael, which again, only when I watched it as an adult do I really remember, was you in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest as well, which obviously is one of the most admired films probably ever made. Like it's up there with one of the greats. Now, at the time that film was being made, did you realise that you were part of such a big film or such a historic movie moment?
Yes, I did. I had only worked 1 day prior. I had a 2-day guarantee for a movie called Doc Savage with Mon Healy. In my autobiography, which I have sent off to the Library of Congress and WGGA, will be pitching it to a publisher in a few weeks. I mentioned how I got into film, but my second job was Cuckoo's Nest. Doc Savage had a casting director, which was the same people, Michael Berryman and Gene Feinberg, who were the casting directors for Cuckoo's Nest. That's how they even knew I existed. So I went to a meeting. I didn't even have an agent yet. And I remember getting a phone call from the casting directors. And they said, would you please go to Culver Studios and meet with Michael Douglas, Joel Douglas, Saul Anthony Foreman, and they would like to talk to you about being in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Now, my father was a world-renowned neurologist and brain surgeon, and I had skull surgery as a child, et cetera, et cetera. So, of course, I said yes. So when I went into the meeting, and there's where all these talented, important people, and I asked Milos who was going to play McMurphy, and he said Jack, and I just had a sense of awe. I just knew that this was going to be something big, and I remember talking to Michael Douglas about how the film came about, because I had seen the play in Los Angeles with Woody Strode as Chief Brompton, and William Devane played McMurphy. It was brilliant. I saw it at the Pasadena Playhouse, and of course I knew the book, and I inquired that whether or not Tim Kesey would come by and visit us, and he said that his father, Kirk Douglas, had tried to have the film produced for many years, but no one would touch it, even when Kirk was, top of the mark. No one thought that mental illness could be a worthwhile endeavor, ever. So it passed on a generation to his sons. And I thought that quite amazing. And then, of course, when we were in production, Ken never showed up because he was upset that the film was focused on McMurphy and not the Chief. And Michael told me that every time they received a screenplay from Ken Kesey, that it wasn't a screenplay, it was a novel. So it went round and round and round, and finally Spelzans, the company, got the rights, and we put it together, and the rest is literally history.
Yeah, and that film,
I knew it was going to be huge.
That film launched the career of so many big stars. Obviously, Danny DeVito was in the film, Christopher Lloyd was in the film, obviously Jack Nicholson was in the film, although he had a career before that. Did that film go on to help you get other parts or bring your name to the mainstream when it came to your acting ability?
Well, yes and no. The no part meaning mainstream. I don't have the look for mainstream. Never had, never wanted to be an actor. I had the scrutiny of the world upon me every day of my life as early as I can remember, when you have a visual difference. So I had no intention of becoming an actor. I had studied art history in college. I wanted to homestead in Alaska and study nature conservation, etc. And just be in the natural world. I grew up in Los Angeles before there were freeways. And then it turned into just one giant parking lot, kind of like the Joni Mitchell song, Paved Paradise. Anyway, I've had the wonderful opportunities to meet and spend time with Joni at the Troubadour back in my high school days. Anyway, I didn't feel that this was something I wanted to pursue. I had taken a lot of public speaking. I was an Eagle Scout. Order of the Arrow. I had advanced Red Cross trained first aid. I could do a lot of things, but I also had a lot of medical things to deal with, heat, for instance. But as far as an actor, no, I didn't want more. I just wanted to be a regular person and try to get a regular life. And being an actor and being scrutinized constantly would have been like, well, nothing I had an interest in. However, when I got discovered by George Powell, it was an accident. I had been in Washington State helping a friend rebuild a house that had burnt to the ground. I came back to Los Angeles after we had built his house, and I was going to get my truck, four-wheel drive, and get everything ready and fill out the paperwork to homestead in Alaska. Before that happened, and it never did happen, I had a little gift shop in Venice Beach, and next door was an antique store. And the owners were having a special sale for the wealthy because they had very expensive items. So my friend and I had a little plant shop, and so we put in some ferns and areca palms and what made it look homey, made it look nice, and then they bought, they purchased them from us. So we were sort of milling around waiting to see how this little sale went. And one of the owner's father was George Powell.
Mm.
So I don't know who George is, but I knew his work. So George came up to me and he said, "Are you an actor?" And I said, "No." And he basically handed me his card for Warner Brothers, and he said, "I'm doing a movie, and you look the part." And I said, "Well, that's nice." He said, "Well, please, be in my movie." And I said, "Okay." And he gave me a 2-day guarantee, which under the Taft-Hartley labor law allows you to petition to join the Screen Actors Guild, a union. So I did that. I made $400. I worked 1 day. Went to Harold Lloyd's estate where we filmed it, and it was really a lot of fun, but I never considered myself doing this more than that 1 day. Ironically, George's casting director, like I said, was casting for Cuckoo. That's how they found me. So I had the chance to work 127 days on Cuckoo's Nest. And during that process, I asked a lot of questions, and especially about cinematography. Milos answered a lot of questions for me. He gave me the best advice a film actor could ever receive. He put me in front of a Panavision camera. We were using the Panavision cameras. And he says, "I want you to look at the lens." And I said, "Okay." He says, "Now, I want you to have a love affair with the glass." And then he had me look through the camera. And then I asked a bunch of questions about what are all these dials and numbers and stuff. And the cinematographer handed me a book on cinematography, and I studied it. And that created a curiosity more in a scientific manner, because I also had a degree in art history. So I started to see that more as a line of work than the acting, but that's a whole different ballgame, and I didn't have the money to go to school for that. So it basically turned out to be a job that lasted 127 days. And then I figured that was great. It's going to make a lot of money. I had a few close-ups that were specifically important in the film, but I'm still going to go to Alaska. And I didn't. I met Wes Craven instead.
Yeah, and obviously that. Yeah, I mean, well, I just want to go back to something you said before, Michael, because I found it really interesting. You said that you didn't want to be in front of the camera because of the way that you looked, because you felt you looked different, obviously. And then you said about you didn't want to be scrutinised. I mean, do you have some resentment for the roles that you're cast in due to the way that the fact that you look slightly different?
Fair question. The answer, of course, is no. There is no resentment at all. George opened a door of opportunity. I had lost dozens and dozens of career opportunities in the past due to medical issues and birth defects. And I ran out of money at the university, didn't have my full degree, was homeless for many, many years. I was aware enough to realize that it's a visual medium, film, television, for instance. You're going to get, everyone gets typecast. So that being said, I always made it a point to, if I played a bad guy, I played very strongly. So the hero has a challenge to conquer and to be heroic and rise above the mark, or rise above what they think that they could possibly do, and they rise above it and they save the day. However, I've had a few times when I have told directors, no, I'm not going to do the scene in this manner. It's debasing. It's unnecessary. It's not going to be in the final edit. And I believe that we could do this scene in. I'll give a perfect example. I had a film in Wisconsin that never went anywhere, but SAG contract. I got paid, did my scene, went home. Before I left to go to Wisconsin, there was a scene in the opening part of the film where me and some other people take some young 20-something boys and girls hostage, and I'm supposed to be extremely brutal and disrespectful to this young lady. And it is exactly what they wanted. The scene is I'm standing in front of this young gal, and she's on her knees, and whatever is implied is obvious. And I'm supposed to say, "Come to Daddy." And then later in the movie, I get killed. Well, that was repulsive, and I said, "No, I'm not going to do it like that. No, that's not. We're not going to do that line, and we're not going to do it in that manner." Now, I'm on a phone call with the director, my agent, and myself, and I said, what I suggest is that the camera is behind me, because they wanted me to drop trout. I'm sorry, not doing that. And I said, the camera's behind me, my trousers are up, I do a little tug like I secured my belt, I look up to the side, there is the young lady, it's after the fact, now she has a close-up, I step to the side, it's framed, she's been devastated, she can act. That was my suggestion. They said, okay, yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, now I get on the plane a couple weeks later, I fly out, and that's my travel day. And I was smart enough to take a cassette recording of our conversation, which, of course, I had told them I was recording. So we arrive, I go to I'm supposed to go to the hotel, it's my travel day, and I said, well, you're filming nights, it's evening, let's just stop by the set and say hello. So we do. And we go and happen to be in the cabin where that scene I described is taking place, and I meet everyone, and the director says, well, now that you're here, let's go ahead and shoot that scene. And I go, really, that's what you want to rehearse it? He says, no, I want to shoot it. And I go, I said, well, we're not going to do that. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, this is my travel day. My start work day is tomorrow. I get 12 hours to rest. I just flew in. Okay. So I rest. We come back next day. And he wants to do the scene the original way. I said, no, we're not doing it that way. And he said, oh, you're being difficult. You'll never work in this business again if you don't, if you fight your director. I said, excuse me. So I asked if they cleared the room. And just me, the actress, director, and producer. And we all sit down at a table, and I said, okay. Now, the young lady had no idea about our previous conversation. So I took out my cassette recorder, and I pushed play. Everybody listened. I said, is that you? He says, yes, but Michael, you must understand. I said, no. You must understand. We're doing it the correct way. If you don't like that, you could hire somebody else, but I'm not in breach of contract. Okay, fine, we'll get somebody else. Now, I pulled the young lady aside, and I explained to her, I said, well, what do you think? She said, I like your idea better. So, long story short, I don't do short stories. But anyway, long story short, they released me. I had a check for my complete contract because they were in breach. Put me on a plane, and then a couple days later, one of the cameramen called me up and said, oh, they took her out to dinner, wined her, dined her, promised her a big movie career, got somebody to replace you. They did it the old way. It was horrible. I had to film it. It was gross. And the film never went anywhere. My point is, even though I didn't want a movie career, even though I didn't want more to be viewed by the whole world, I learned so many wonderful things while doing Cuckoo's Nest. I learned how films are made and how stories are told. and I made some wonderful friends. So I said, I think I'll ride this horse as long as it's got legs, and it still has legs, and I'm 70 years old. So no regrets.
Yeah, and I suppose that the great thing about that is that you've actually carved out, you know, a huge career, right? You've been in some incredible films, and along the way you've developed a real following as well, right? You know, I mean, I see it on Twitter all the time, and I know you're not on Twitter yourself, but the amount of mentions I see in the horror community of you and how adored you are, I'm guessing now, is it at the point that you don't even need to audition for horror parts? You must surely just be able to walk in and know whether you've got the role or not.
I didn't quite catch all of that. You were a little overmodulated.
Yeah, sure.
The question that
I'll start it again. I'll start it again. So I was just saying that, you know, subsequently you've built out an incredible career within the horror genre, and you're adored by that community as well. So, you know, I go on Twitter all the time and I see your name being mentioned amongst the horror community. Obviously, I've seen some of the fantastic films you've been in. I'm guessing it's at the point now that you're so well known in horror. Do you even need to audition for films that are in the horror genre?
I'm so glad you asked that question. No, I do not. I did put myself on tape for a TV series, The New Pope. Occasionally something for television because it's a different format. You put yourself on tape, but no, I don't. So I would say very rarely. But as far as feature films, no. If it was a big film like Cuckoo's Nest or something, of course there would be meetings and running lines. But no, I don't have to do that anymore. It is a blessing, yes, quite. Oh God, good God. I've been in. Well, the last time I actually auditioned was when I was up for the role of The X-Files, Season 3, in the role of Owen Jarvis in Revelations, where Scully and Mulder switch their belief systems, and I'm a guardian angel. In the beginning of the episode, you think I'm the bad guy.
Mm.
So I had some personal, real-life experience with regards to family and young children, for instance, to protect them. That's all I can say about that over the air. But the lesson learned from that experience was bittersweet. There was success, and then also there was some regrettable actions by other people. So when I read the part, it was a role where I could really sink my teeth into it, and I could have an epiphany in the sense that I could let some of that pain and suffering go. It would go into the performance, and it would expunge it from my soul.
Mm.
So when I went to have the meeting with Chris Carter, I had this in my mindset. So when I walked into the room, after waiting in the waiting room with about 50 other actors, all looking a little different, you know, any one of us could have played the part.
Mm.
So I walk in, I say our hellos. There's David Nutter and my director, and Chris Carter, of course. And I say, the first thing I say to them is, you're going to see 99 other people for this role. There are many talented actors that are in the lobby right now waiting to come in after I do my lines. I know about half of them, but I'm the guy you want to hire. And I'm going to show you and express to you in my running my lines right now exactly why you must hire me. And they leaned back in their chairs, they looked at one another, their eyes had a sparkle and a glint and a smile, and they just said, please. And we read once, and here's what Chris Carter says. We will see you in Vancouver, but we do have one request. When you exit the room, please, the look on your face, make it look as if you perhaps did not get the role. And I said, I know why. because everyone who is going to read for you deserves to have a good shot at it, and so you can use it in something subsequently. And I don't want to, and then they're all prepped and ready and to give you what they have brought to the table. They said, great. So I go to leave the room, and I'm keeping my eyes down to the ground as I'm walking out the front door to sign out and go to my car. I barely made it without hooping and hollering. But when I did get outside and got to my car, and I got on the payphone, there was no cell phones back then. I called my girlfriend. I said, I'm going to be in the X-Files. And I was hooping and hollering, and I was exquisitely happy.
What a great story.
A great shoot.
What an amazing word. It's a shame you didn't audition more often. It sounds like you're pretty good at it, to be honest with you, Michael. You just walked in and told them you got the role, and then they got it. Sounds like...
Actually, I also gave them a challenge. I told them not only what I just said, but I told David, my director, I said, when we're in Vancouver and we have a chance to have dinner together, I said, I want to tell you why I needed this role. You see me early in the episode, and you go, oh, he's a bad guy. Creepy, scary, bad, horrible person. And at the end, he's a guardian angel. He gives his life, he dies to save this young boy.
So why was that so cathartic for you? Why was that role so cathartic?
Well, it's cathartic because, as I explained earlier, there are young men and women who were children at the time, and a mother who I lived with for a period of time, and some bad things happened, and at the hands of someone else, and that's about all I can say because that someone else could still be alive. And so that's all I can tell you. So bad things happen to these young children that were not mine, like living with this family, and out of respect to them, I can't tell you much anymore other than things beyond our control happened at the hands of someone who was a very foul individual. And it was done on purpose to cause pain and suffering.
So do you feel the role was in some way some sort of redemption?
Yes, exactly.
It's fascinating. It's a great story. Exactly. Amazing story.
And sometimes life and art interchange. So it was one of those moments, and we had a very good conversation at dinner. And he said, "Man, it really showed." And you know, people think that acting is just it's mechanical. How you do this, you hit your mark, you say, you're like, no. It reminds me of the Bruce Lee movie when he has to go to Han's tournament, and the British fellow is there, Secret Service, and he says, yeah, you got to go down to Han's tournament, they're doing bad things, and you're going to be a spy. And he says, no, it's just a moment. It's the young boy, he's giving a karate lesson, and Bruce says it's Lau's time. That's the young boy's name. And Bruce tells the boy, he says, kick me. And the boy doesn't move, and he says, again, and he does it again, trying to be macho. And Bruce goes, no, not in anger. And he takes his hand and he points it up to the sky. He says, it's like pointing your finger to the moon. Do not focus on the finger. If you do, you will miss out on all of that celestial glory. Yeah,
such a great line. Brilliant analogy as well.
It's a wonderful scene, and I remember having dinner with Brandon Lee because we worked on The Crow together, and I remember sharing that with him. And the smile on Brandon Lee's face is just, to this day, what a remarkable young man.
Yeah, and obviously sorely missed and a real tragic loss, right? I mean, just that whole family, it's sort of, some way you feel like they're cursed, but still immortalised at the same time. And back to what you were saying before, Michael, as well, I think you can tell when there's something meaningful in a performance where a character is either borrowing or taking from their own life and adding it to a part, you can always tell. There's always that sort of magic that you see unfolding on the screen, and it's happened so many times in cinema. And when it comes across, it's so poignant and so brilliant, and they become that part. It's great to hear that you're approaching it in that way as well.
It's the only way I know how to act. I have to make it. It has to be real. It has to be. Have to be able to chew on it. There has to be, like Bruce says, emotional content. It has to have emotional content. Now, a lot of sitcoms, I love Big Bang. It's just a lot of fun. There's emotional content there, but it's different than a feature film because you have more time. There's more takes. There's more to delve into. There's dramatic series, etc. But I love film. I love Green Book. Green Book. Brilliant little film. The Writer. Sweet film. Probably one of my favorites of the last year. But that's the point. Is you're telling a story, but why should I care? The actor has to convince us. We have to draw you in. It's like a beautiful speech that John Goodman gives in Joe Dante's film Matinee, when he's on the stage and he's setting up all the things that buzz the seats, and he's doing the William Castle thing, and he talks about how people walk into the theater, the lights go down, the curtain comes up. Well, when you're sitting down in your seat and the lights go dark and you have your popcorn, and you're not thinking about where did I park the car. The movie has to, the music and all of the wonderful artistic elements of filmmaking. They combine together and they draw you in.
No, I totally agree. Well, I suppose I've got...
important and...
Sorry, go on.
Yeah.
No, go on, please, carry on.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So I've got one last question for you, Michael, and it might be a bit of a difficult one to answer, but that you've lived an incredible life and you've had an amazing career, and in many ways it's sort of been a pretty remarkable life, I'd say. I suppose a real good question at this stage is, the work you've done sort of with your environmental work and the work you've done in cinema, and the fact that you're incredibly well known in the sort of film community. What would you say your proudest moment in life is? Outside of, it doesn't necessarily have to be film, it could be anything that you've done in your life. What would you say you're most proud of?
I would have to say that's a really good question. There's a couple of things. Well, the one that made the most, I'll pick the first. This comes off the top of my head. This is on the top of my list. There's probably more than one, but I'm going to share this one.
Okay.
When I was doing a movie in Atlanta, Georgia, I met, actually when I was doing The Crow with Brandon Lee, I was having a wardrobe fitting, and the gentleman sitting opposite me was Paul Newman. And we had a nice long conversation. He was shooting Hudsucker Proxy. And he handed me a card and some information about a program that he helps fund. He, Paul Newman, General Schwarzkopf, and Arnold Palmer started a foundation called the Bogey Creek and the Hole in the Wall Gang. What these charities do, he raises a lot of money for his food products. In St. Petersburg, Florida, there was a camp. It's called the Bogey Creek Camp. And they invite parents with children with facial cranial birth defects. They invite the whole family. They bring these families together, and they stay in these lovely cabins, and there's a center there where the children and family meet the best reconstructive surgeons in the entire Northern Hemisphere. And they learn everything they need to know about their children and how they can do reconstructive facial or skull reconstructive surgery to help better their eyes.
Mm.
So I had explained to Paul that my father had been at Hiroshima. He was radioactive. It altered his genes. I was born with birth defects. I had, craniectomy at age 4, I think it was. So that's why he passed me on to these people. Because I had a chance to go and talk to the kids and say, hey, look, I have some differences. You have some differences. I'm older, you're younger. You're going through some situations. I went through situations. So we met a lot of kids, some young, some older, and there was this one young girl, probably 16, and she needed at least one more around where they cut up your muscles, where they reconstruct your face and finish. And she goes, I don't like what they do. It hurts. Kids make fun of me. I said, well, we've been talking to your surgeons, and these are the best, and, it's all being paid for, but you're right. It's not fun to have this stuff done. But this is your last surgery, and maybe I understand that you're saying no, but maybe we could work something out. And the only reason I'm saying this is one of the top of my list is because if it wasn't for George Powell to get me in the films, I never would have been in the situation to meet this young lady. You see. So I'm proud of the fact that I spoke up to Paul, and I'm very grateful that he actually had these connections. And I went there a couple of years in a row. And so here's how it ends. I go talking to parents and surgeons, and I go, she's not willing to sign off on the surgery. I said, but I'm going to sit back down with her, and I'm going to offer her an agreement. So I went back to her, and I said, well, listen, I have to have my eyelids shortened because my eyes get dry. They're going to have to go up and break and carve out my nose because I have a deviated septum, and then they're going to go in through my cheek and up underneath each of my eyes and take a little bag of hydroxyapatite, and then they inject it with my blood, and it turns into bone, and it'll calcify, and they're going to sew it to my cheekbones. And I says, and I'm like 50 years old, and maybe 45 at the time. And I says, I don't want any more stuff done on me. I've had plenty of surgeries too. And she takes my hand and pats it, and she says, you'll be just fine.
Oh, man.
And I was speechless.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what should I expect? And she says, oh, your face will be the size of a basketball. It'll hurt. You'll get up to lay back down. But eventually it'll get better. I said, well, you have been through this before. And I said, how about this? I'll have mine done if you have yours done. And I'll send you pictures of my face all puffed up like a basketball and all the different stages of it healing. And all I ask in return is that you send me a picture of you at your high school prom. We shook hands, and she did exactly as we agreed. And they did a beautiful job. And everything she said would happen to me, and she was absolutely correct. I remember one day the kids and my wife were going up to see the horses or do something, and I go, yeah, hang on, I'll be right there. And then I go, oh, no, I need to lay down and rest my face. My point is, that's what I'm most proud of. What I'm most proud of is I'm proud of being able to do that which makes a difference. And when we leave the camp, Bogey Creek Camp, we all gather together, the doctors, the staff, the family members and kids, and there's a little poem we read before we all go to our homes. And it says, at the end of my life, it won't matter what kind of a car I drove, how big my house was, how much money I made. What matters is if I made a difference in the lives of children. Boom. To be asked, to be invited into an arena of love, compassion, and humanity, and making a difference, bringing light into gloom, and letting people see a path to go forward is what I'm most honored to be a part of. Pride has nothing to do with it.
But I suppose it speaks volumes about you as a person, though, Michael, because, you know, if you think about, trying to think about how to phrase this, is that it would have been very easy for you to feel sorry for yourself. It would have been really easy for you to, you know, clam up. But it appears that you did the opposite of that. You tried to do things that challenged you the most by, you know, like you said, by going in front of the camera when you felt like it was an unnecessary level of scrutiny that you weren't ready for. It appears that you've lived your life to the fullest.
Well, true to a certain extent. In my book, I mean, I honestly convey the highs, the lows, the despair, the dark night of the soul, so to speak. But there is some grit, you know. There's always some grit that you have to hang on to. I had many times when it was just quite grim, but then there's always something as simple as a smile. I could be walking down the street and parents have their kid, and then a little kid just looking at smiles.
Mm.
Or you see random acts of kindness. You can see it in nature all the time. On my Facebook page, I post tons of that stuff. Animals rescuing people. People rescuing animals. Animals rescuing other animals. Appreciation of what we have as opposed to the old bumper sticker in Los Angeles when I was growing up on the BMW cars, especially, it would say the one that dies with the most toys wins. I think not.
No, I agree. Well, look, listen, Michael, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. It's been an amazing interview. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure all of our listeners are going to love it. So thank you for joining us. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I only have one request, and that's the next time I go over the pond, I would love to have a British breakfast with crispy bacon.
Absolutely. We can definitely make that happen. Fantastic.